This presentation will discuss the projects of 1965 Setiap Hari, a research relay collective founded in 2015. The collective's diverse background and location shaped the collective's direction, that the discussion of Indonesia's anti-communist killings of 1965-66 consists of multiple sets of dynamically overlapping and interacting transnational social fields and agents. Transnationalism is not used here as a synonym for an ever-widening discourse within some homogeneously conceived space. Instead, we conceptualize it as movements or developments in reverse, including different nonlinear configurations and constellations. This representation proposes that the collective's projects serve as a framework that engages with the challenges and the processes in discussing and representing the killings of 1965-66 in contemporary Indonesia. The new order narratives justify Indonesia's 1965-66 massacres as eradication of traitors. These narratives substantiated the legal and political exclusion of these traitors and continuously prompted their social exclusion. More than 20 years after Reformasi, these narratives persist. With the current regression of democracy in Indonesia, this and increasingly other marginalization also stimulate hyper-nationalist discourses. Initiatives such as 1965 Setiap Hari, which addresses problems related to the social exclusion of survivors from the massacres, are therefore urgent. Many initiatives tend to focus on either a public display of power in political negotiations and public protest, or research resulting in archives and scholarly publication. Advancing from these existing initiatives, we seek to activate the public's agency through engagement and participation, to debunk general misinformation and the new order narratives on the massacres that props up ongoing social and political marginalization and exclusion. So we establish popular, transformative platforms about the massacres through ever-expanding digital social platforms. Now, this is us. 1965 Setiap Hari is a volunteer-based research and relay collective established in 2015. The collective was founded by women from survivors' families to address public opinion on the survivor groups of the massacres. As of 2021, we have grown into a 10-person collective, 7 females, 3 males, from diverse social and professional backgrounds, including journalism, activism, visual arts and design, and also from academia. We're based in Jakarta, Yogyakarta, Melbourne, Brisbane, and New York. We annually expand our collective by strategically inviting new members to relay our mission. Now, our primary mission is to engage the current generation with stories of resilience from and beyond the massacres through establishing communication in social media platforms familiar to them. We believe the current generation should critically engage with history to ensure that the past violence will never happen again. We aim to include social, cultural, and political narratives previously excluded or marginalized through accessible language and visual forms appealing to the broader audience. As a collective, our objectives are to communicate history through narrative storytelling that is critical, informative, and interactive. Since 2015, we publish daily and monthly content on our social media outlets in the forms of short stories and or photographs contributed by our members and survivor groups from Java, Bali, Sumatra, Sulawesi, Maluku, East Nusa Tenggara, and also from Indonesian diaspora communities. This is a screenshot of our first platform, which is a blog inspired by an interview with Anita Sobron Airit's daughter, chef, and member of the Indonesian diaspora in France. You can see her story there. The blog was created in 2015 to collect personal stories on Indonesia's 1965 and distribute them to social media. The project aims to post one story in various formats to keep the stories around the massacre alive as a living and ongoing memorial. We approach people that we know or friend of a friend to contribute anything personal about the events, including but not limited to short stories, poems, images, videos, opinions, anything that reminds one of 65. The blog aims to show that these stories are shared by many who transcend the definitions of left, right, wrong, victims, perpetrators. It hoped to create more awareness of 65 events in Indonesia and abroad. Between 2015 and 2017, we had around 40 contributors with an average post between 2 or 3 stories per month. Now, one of the highlights from the blog was a story, the contribution from Ilham Aidit and Aidit's son. It serves for us as an example about the lack or the dearth of archive and also the precarity of testimonial practices. So Ilham contributed a heartwarming story of his father. When Tintin asked him to supply an image for the story, he stumbled, realizing that such a simple task could be difficult for him because his household was destroyed when his father was murdered. So Ilham asked Tintin to use this lovely image of Sukarno taking a photograph of a smiling Aidit. But the image turned out to be part of Agan Harhap's series History X, created in 2013. Harhap is a visual artist based in Yogyakarta and well known for his digitally altered photographs. For this series, the artist created an alter ego called Amirizal Chaniago, a photographer from the President Palace, and the series is intended to be a portfolio of the said alter ego. Now, Ilham and Agan are eventually connected and the misunderstanding was cleared. Now, because of members' background in the arts, it's probably not a wonder that we acknowledge the critical role of the arts in catalyzing the imagination, expressing creativity, integrating aspects of the self, providing meaningful symbols, sustaining a sense of beauty and harmony, and most importantly, resisting conformity and even subverting the status quo. In this phase, especially the last one, we transition from the blog, which turned out to be a text-focused storytelling, into visual storytellings in our social media outlets to increase their importance for the democratic public. Now, these new spaces, this is a screenshot of our Instagram page, open up the terrain of social media, which are often more accessible for relatively marginalized people. So power is potentially rendered accountable through visual storytelling in the same way it is generated accountability through more traditional political avenues, that is through political engagement of citizens. Now, younger citizens in particular often get the information about politics and gain a sense of political efficacy. Participating in these alternative political spaces is one means of drawing ordinary citizens into political engagement, and for some, one that engages them deeply and passionately. Nonetheless, despite the diverse number of our contributors, just a reminder, from Java, Bali, Sumatra, Sulawesi, Maluku, East Nusa Tenggara, and even from the Indonesian diasporic communities, the follower breakdown from our Instagram account shows that our followers are still primarily from the urban centers in Java, male, and between the age of 25 to 34. Clearly, this is something that we still need to work on. In 2021, responding to the increasingly popular platform, we created the 1965 Setiap Hari podcast series to expand our audience. A recent international survey that respondents regularly listen to podcasts at least once a month on smartphones or other portable media devices, which suggests that its principal function happens on the move. Another study indicates that podcast users tend to distinguish between digital audio mediation and analog radio broadcasts, arguably reproducing a boundary between old and new media types. However, it has conversely been suggested that podcasts are instead complex multimodal texts distinguishable from traditional radio due to the hyper-intimacy of close and active listening to people from one's own community or specific sphere of interest. As of January 2021, we have produced 7 episodes, whose topic ranges from intimate conversations between survivor family members, Hersi Setiawan and his daughter Ken, to our latest episode, a collaboration with the Jakarta History Institute about Sukarno's architectural vision. So thus, our collective aims to strengthen both media empowerment and democratic accountability in Indonesia through disseminating stories on the massacres and their aftermath. As a research and relay collective, we ascertain that quality information we gather is immediately disseminated and publicly accessible. The stories shared through 1965 Setiap Hari often draw on specific interviews, personal recollections, and archives, as well as alternative sources, oral history, for example, that have largely been excluded from mainstream discourses on Indonesia's political and social history. In so doing, 1965 Setiap Hari engages the public in general, as well as other media actors, through offering alternative views and stories of the violence. 1965 Setiap Hari contributes to democratic accountability by stimulating narratives that have been long suppressed and thereby aiding informed participation by the voting public. This is particularly important as formal justice efforts for the violence continue to be disputed or even rejected, which further highlights the urgency to broaden public awareness of the 1965-66 anti-communist killings and their ongoing impacts. Now, the stories of the massacres have strong local, regional, and global impacts, so we collaborate accordingly to ensure that our dissemination of this story stays relevant in the fast-changing media landscape. Since 2021, or as of this year, we began collaborating with partners in emerging media platforms, such as the interactive map platform, Faith and Speculation 1965, and the Zoom discussion series Warisan Ingatan. You can see the screenshot of our partner websites there. Now, in addition to this, recently we have been invited to partner with academic and research projects to our collective's own members, such as Symposium 65, which convened by myself for the Center of Visual Arts at the University of Melbourne, and the artistic research project Protocols of Killing 1965 Distance and the Ethics of Future Warfare, led by Tintin Wulia. Other research projects and groups that have expressed interest in having us to present our work as part of the activities, including a project led by Professor Patricia Speyer from the Graduate Institute of Geneva on image invisibilities and work on appearances, and also a project called Ecological Futurisms based at the University of Westminster. So how does our collective respond to the transnational framework? As mentioned earlier in the presentation, in exploring nonlinear trajectories from the stories and visuals collected in our social media outlets and our expanding transnational network, our collective allows the memory of 65-66 to be visualized differently, not as a horizontal spread on a map, but as a dynamic operating at multiple platforms that involve interlocking scales and involving conduits, intersections, circuits, and articulations. Our use of digital technologies reflect the increasing numbers of users globally, particularly in Indonesia, and importantly offers an avenue to connect with people in various locations and may help evade opposition and censorship from illiberal social and political actors. In establishing hubs for accessible public discussions, we seek to create a space for different public opinion and work towards reducing the risk of future conflict. With the help of transnational framework, we hope to highlight retrospectively some of the paths not taken in the formation of dominant narratives about the killings, and so reopen archives and reactivate the potential of certain icons and narratives to become recuperated as new sites for future memory of 65 and 66. As a closing slide, this is some of the direction which our collective are intending or planning to do for the future, which is the first one, developing our followers contributor space and through integrated programming across all existing platforms through a pilot series, 19 Pemuda Bicara 65, where we engage 19 contributors, 12 females and 7 males between 18 to 30-year-old from areas outside of our existing followers and contributors. Secondly, an expansion into video sharing social media platform. We aim to produce a bite-sized documentary pilot series, Dunia 1965, still a working title, in monthly episodes until January 2022. This will kickstart our YouTube platform taking into account the popular educational characteristics of YouTube over other video sharing platforms such as Vimeo or TikTok. And lastly, we're investigating options and decision-making on our legal form based on evaluation of our collective's characteristics, needs, and future strategy. Thank you for listening.